these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
Hello and thanks for joining Corporate Governance Platform. The program is proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals. And in today's episode, we'll be bringing you our video clips of the Oyo State Governance Practitioners Day that was held recently in Ibadan, where we have the president and the chairman of council of ICSAN, Mr. Taiwo Benga Owo Kalade FCIS, made a speech, and of course we have Mr. Francis Olawale FCIS also made a speech, and we have the Dr. Nosike Agokai FCIS also gave a speech amongst all the speakers. Aribentunde Odeyemi, sit back, relax, and enjoy the clips.
I'm not accused of impersonation. Well, I'm a doctor in the medical. So thank you very much. Mine is not really an open speech. I just provide perspective to the importance of today's event. The president and chairman of council is waiting online to declare the event open. I'd just like to say welcome to every participant here, and then to our online participants, who I understand are much more, than those of us here. So this is Governance Practitioners Day. Like I said to you, the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, the hub of governance practitioners, is an institute dedicated, to the practice, pursuits of ethos of good governance, sound governance, corporate governance. And you will all agree with me that in our plan, one of the most needed commodities, so to say, at this stage and time, to be good governance, and that's what we promote. Beyond practicing in-house as company secretaries and playing on the governance space, we want to promote the establishment of governance firms, and that's the vision driving this particular campaign. A lot of our members are company secretaries, compliance officers, and beyond that, we also want a committee of practitioners, firms, to service the economy, and not just the Nigerian economy, the African economy, and the sub-Saharan. So that's the essence, of this vision. We've always held the Governance Practice Day in years in a row, where we decided to take them to various chapters, to various states where we have chapters as an institute, and then Oyo chapter being a strategic. Oyo being a strategic state, was picked to be one of the states that will host us. I heard your state anthem, and you say, yeah, actually, okay, that's noted. Like I said, I'm not here, to give an open speech, it's just to welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. Welcome to Oyo State Governance Practitioners Day. And on that note, I'll ask Mr. President to give the opening speech. Thank you.
This program is hosting a national program during your tenure. Governing Council members, most of those that are virtual, have kept saying your charts showing your presence. I'm always happy when we have occasions, and I find my council members always been there. You're always the comfort that I get and the happiness that gives me that eternal joy. You are a great motivation, making me to feel good that we have an institute that is ready to keep moving on. It's my pleasure to appreciate each and every one of you. Fellow charter secretaries, both physical and virtual, our distinguished guests in the house, our media partners, you have been very, very loyal, you have been very, very supportive. You have taken us, our institute, into the front line of the Nigerian system. Hardly will you now find a day or a week that something is not written about us. It's been you that have always been there, ensuring that you keep supporting us. So for all our media partners, I want to thank you and thank you greatly. Ladies and gentlemen, both physical and in-house, I want to extremely thank you. We also have a past president that we are hosting this program in his backyard, and that is past President Simon Kolawole. I think it's actually a privilege and a pleasure that your state is hosting this. We want to thank you. So why are we here? The chairman of the Governance Fractional Committee, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS, had mentioned some of those things that have led us there. But as the president of the institute, I want to say that among several programs that we have, this is a program that speaks to the practice of our institute. A governance practitioner, a charter secretary, cannot claim to be anything if it's not in practice. When I say in practice, I'm really talking about in practice. When you go down the line and you find our members there, either supporting companies to move on, or running their own companies and then serving as advisory counsel to as many clients as possible, then you make us feel good. That is about us. And in the present domain that we find ourselves, everybody is talking about governance, governance, governance. So no matter the profession that we're into, no matter the activity that people do, people now talking about the governance aspects of those issues. And the meaning is that, who are those people behind this process? It is our members, the charter secretaries, the governance professionals, ensuring that we bring all other professions together into this bucket, and then use our own strength and quality to provide activities to drive advocacy about governance. When a politician plays his politics, we talk about the governance aspect of those politics. When a lawyer talks about law, he talks about the governance aspect of those issues. When you set up a company from cradle to grave, there must be somebody that is always there, ensuring that you get doing it well. And that is the governance person. He helps to file he helps to register your business, and helps to keep helping you to file your records every time. And he helps to also keep giving you those directions that will ensure that the objective of which you have set up that office is fulfilled. That's the governance person, and that is what we are into. So what we're ensuring that we are doing with this program is to ensure that as many of our people as possible who don't want to be in employment as company secretary, but they want to be in practice as real practitioners, we encourage them to set up their firms and then be able to serve as many of the corporate clients as possible that we have in all over Nigeria and also beyond. Because governance is not just about Nigeria, and the world is becoming a global village. So you need that corporate governance person that will help you to also navigate your way, not just within the Nigerian balance, but also outside of the Nigerian balance. So these are the things that we're basically talking about, and that is why when we conceptualize this idea, we just said, oh, we needed to change from the process that we're adopting before, then take this program to as many of our chapters as possible, so that we use it as an opportunity to showcase what we're talking about, and then take the advocacy to the doorstep of our members. So that is why today it is the turn of Oyo State. And I want to challenge Mr. Samson Elori, the chairman of Oyo State. One of those things that you should take as your primary objective is to ensure that as many of your members as possible, if not everyone, after today, after this program, they sign in onto this practice that we're talking about, and they get their stamp, and they get their seal, so that as from today they can keep serving. You cannot claim to be a chairman when you are not propagating those things that are the heart of our practice. And one of those issues is what we are talking about. It's not a matter of saying, oh, we have not heard. We are not only hearing, we have brought it to your doorstep. So after today, in the next 48 hours, I want to see all of your ESCO members sign in onto these things. And I want to be able to see that all of your ESCO members get their practice stamp and their seal, so that conveniently we now say, oh, yes, we are growing. But charity begins at home. We cannot encourage other members to sign on when you and your ESCO members are not signing in. And that is a challenge that I'm giving you. Today is Thursday. By the end of tomorrow, I want to see all of your ESCO members sending their requests and also fulfill their obligations. And after that, you can now conveniently now be talking to as many other members as possible, so that we can be able to see what we need to do. Whatever support that you need, Mr. Francis Olawale is there as the chairman of the committee. The registrar is also there towards ensuring that we fast track this process, and they will keep also encouraging ourselves. For as many of our people who are desiring to practice, this is a prosperous way to go. And that is why we have brought one of the finest hands that our institute has produced over time, Dr. Nosike Agoke. It's someone that people like us who are not even president, we keep appreciating, we keep celebrating, but we know the quality of what it's about. And that is why the topic for the team that we're looking at, is also going to the heart of this major issue, say, managing a sustainable governance practice. Farm.
Honorable member of the Oyo State House of Assembly, Sheyi, I thank you so much for, I know you are very busy, but I thank you for agreeing to, you see, because I still practice law, I still lecture, but the major thing I do now is governance consulting. And I do this governance consulting because it's ICSAN that trained me to become a governance consultant. For those of you who didn't qualify under ICSAN, those of us who qualified and were admitted as members of ICSAN. So on our CVs now, we put member Chartered Governance Institute. You know, you can't do that because we haven't changed our name yet. So we have an advantage, but you will get there. You will become members Chartered Governance Institute. Now, one of the reasons why we must listen closely this morning is that if you are getting involved in consultancy, you must be very bold. You must be ready to tell the truth. You can't engage in consultancy and you won't tell the truth. Otherwise, your client will discover that you didn't tell the truth. They may not discover it immediately. When they discover, you lose your reputation and you won't get jobs from them again. Even when there are others to give you jobs to do, the moment they know and they say, you're giving a job to this guy, no, this is what he did to us. All right, so it's important that we're bold. And by the way, you know, after we got our decree in 1991, so ICSAN was not happy that we got that decree, because they wanted us to continue to be a branch of ICSAN. So they started treating us like children, people who didn't know what we're doing. And at that time, we had older persons who were presidents, members of council. So they brought me and a few persons to council. I remember that time we were resisting. They said, no, come to council, come to council. So we joined council as young men and women. And after some time, they made me VP. Not now that people are campaigning, running. They just called me and said, you'll be the VP. That's okay. The day they made me VP, I was in the village. They just called me and said, you are not the VP. I said, how? They said, just take it. So I said, okay. So when I became the president, I just said, then I think I was about 41 or so. So I said, these London people, they are not our boss. We're partners. We need to fight this London thing so that they will begin to respect us. So Akim Oguniro was my VP then. So I said, Akim, we have to go to London. Not email, oh, let's go and fight them. Let's be bold.
And also, particularly the work Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS, the Chairman of the Government Practitioners Committee, doing for this particular sector. The governance, ICSAN, or the Governance Institute, is at a critical point. And I have no doubt that its leadership will take it to this greater heights it deserves to be. As chairman of the day, I decided to lend a few words to the theme of today and to take a few cues from my experience in government, having served in the executive arm for 8 years. From my Eastern studies. In fact, even though I was in self-studies, I very strongly that the Governance Institute, and I'm using Governance Institute and ICSAN interchangeably, must focus on the public and not-for-profit sectors as well. Going forward, there is a need to develop capacity and ramp up the number of governance professionals in the public sector particularly. Every time we talk about governance, a lot of people obviously think about politicians, because governance has a lot to do with leadership. And it is my recommendation that the public space must also not be left behind in this goal. We must define governance from the eyes of the public and civil service. Civil servants are actually governance practitioners. They are the functional unit of every government system. They advise us politicians what to do. They show us the way. They tell us how things are done. And this, I believe, makes them very, very important practitioners anytime we talk about governance. And so, as the theme of today's stage, we must set a new agenda. And that agenda must include upskilling them and making them more efficient and effective. I want to particularly recognize, I receive so many letters, things like confidentiality, things like limited access to certain things, are not things that are necessarily talked about. And that's why it is important that the governance committee must continue to push that the public sector, the not-for-profit sector, the social sector must take a front line in the Governance Institute and the new agenda that is being set.
Thank you. I listened very closely to Dr. Agoke, and I'm sure seeing my face, he will know that he knows me because he was my teacher in ICSAN while I was doing my study. And I must commend him because he did a fantastic job in presenting the paper that he did. In fact, while he was speaking, I was like, okay, so what do I have to say again? Because he seemed to have covered a lot, but there are actually some things to say. And I think you will find them interesting also. So I have a slide. I have a slide to be presented. ICSAN, are you projecting my slide? Okay, so while they do that up, I would like to start by talking about when you set up a governance practice firm. The first thing we notice that the company secretary has evolved over time from being just a clerk, just a messenger, somebody who is not to be heard, or just to be seen at meetings and not to be heard. And so we have evolved. And as we have evolved, company secretarial practice firms have also evolved from companies that are doing just core company secretarial work to governance practice firms. But let's even start a bit from the basic. What are the key points you need to consider when you are setting up a corporate governance firm? The first basic thing is your interest. You've got to love what you do, and you've got to do what you love. In other words, governance will be your passion. It's not something you just stumble into. It's something that you genuinely have an interest in and you have a passion for. And then to enable you to achieve your objective, you've got to be qualified. It's okay being a lawyer. It's an advantage being a chartered secretary, an administrator, and also acquiring all the other skills that you need to be able to manage your company secretarial firm very, very well. Dr. Agoke spoke about other opportunities that you can have when you are doing governance consulting. And I would just like to add to that list of that. Part of what you can do as a governance firm, you can do whistleblowing services, you can do insolvency, you can do business recovery and insolvency, you can offer domiciliation services and things like that. Now, in terms of some of these things that you can do, you actually also need to be qualified for them. It's not everybody who can be a business recovery and insolvency practitioner now. The CAMA 2020 has introduced some qualification to that. As part of it also, you have to consider in setting up your practice, the location. I saw that in Dr. Agoke's slide, so I will not talk too much about that. You also need to determine as you are setting up the practice, what's going to be your prominent sectors? Which sectors do you really want to focus on? Who are your target audience? Who is your target audience? Who is your client? What are your goals? What are your objectives? And then you want to build your brand. You want to develop your goodwill. What do you want your firm to be known for? To the clients that you offer your services to. Then he had also talked about policies and best practice, the things that you need to put in place to make your firm, your governance practice firm, the best workplace for anyone who is in that line of business to want to work with. And then you want to think about getting experienced hands. He has talked about staffing, partnerships, collaborations for you to set up the firm. So those are key in you taking into consideration those things that you actually want to do. I'm on slide 6, please. Thank you. And so in setting up this firm, like I said, some of the businesses that you are going to do, they've moved away from core company secretarial work. And so you need to think about the registrations that you want to have because of the regulation.
I was discussing with somebody, she said, I gave somebody job, he lured me to it. By the time he now delivered the job to me, I was unable to pay. Up till now, I have not paid him. I don't want this one to be like that. Please let me know how much will I pay. As a starter, I believe these are similar experiences that one will be facing. How do we handle such, sir? Thank you very much.
Let's take those two, and then we'll continue. Doctor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Adeoye. When I was having a discussion with you, I talked about ownership and governance. And I talked about admitting others to be partners. And that if you don't, and they believe that they will not be partners, they will leave you. And then you have a lot of challenges to contend with. So it's important that governance consulting firms recognize that truly they have a partnership.
You are welcome back. It's the corporate governance platform.